Scio Township Local Road Advisory Committee meeting January 4th. Calling the meeting to order. Roll call. Linda Smith, present. Roy Townsend, not present. Jillian Kerry,
Present.
Bob Groden,
Present.
Ian Hubert,
Present.
Don Nichols,
Present.
Rakesh Sharma is not present. Patrick Shields,
Present.
Bob Walsh.
Here, just to be different.
All right, we have an agenda that was printed for January 4th. In front of you, if you printed off the one from the website, you have the correct Zoom meeting ID on it. If you printed off the one that I sent you on Wednesday last week, you have the incorrect Zoom meeting ID on it, please note. Other than that, are there additions, changes, or corrections to the agenda for this evening that anyone questions? Seeing none, would someone please make a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Patrick Shields, a second.
Support.
Was it Bob Walsh? Seconds, thank you. All right, it has been pointed out to me that although it says the minutes of December 5 will be approved, the minutes I attached to the agenda packet are the November 2022 minutes. I'm going to beg Christmas week on that one. We do not have December minutes attached to the agenda. I'm afraid we'll have to add them to the February meeting and try again. I do have December minutes. They were provided to me promptly. I just incorrectly added the November minutes instead of the December minutes. Does anyone object to pushing the minutes forward a month? Hearing none.
Nope.
We will not approve the minutes this evening. We will push them. Communications and correspondences. Again, there are gremlins. The Excel spreadsheet with the communications was garbled on the agenda packet, but all of the communications that we had received since our December meeting are attached in the agenda packet, and there were many.
Excuse me, there are people waiting to be let into the meeting.
Thank you. Did everyone receive the emails and correspondence from the citizens?
Yes.
Do we need to have any discussion about those correspondences at this time, or shall I open the floor to public comment?
Let's do public comments first.
Okay. I'm sorry, yes. I'm doing three things at once again. All right, so I'm opening the floor to public comment. 5 minutes or less per person, please. If you are speaking on a subject that has to do with the meeting, we would love to hear from you. Is there anyone present in the room that wishes to address the Local Roads Committee? No? All right, I'm looking for hands up. I'm looking for anyone in the Zoom audience that wishes to speak to us during the public comment period at the beginning of the meeting. I see no hands. Well, that is a remarkable thing, but thank you for being here at the meeting, and I guess we will move on to the business section of the meeting. Section H1. Establish a policy for attendance and election of officers. This is the end of the first year of the Scio Local Roads Advisory Committee. We were all appointed to the committee, but instructed under them.
Who's the secretary today?
I am.
You are? Okay, sorry, maybe I missed that.
Instructed that we would have a chair and a secretary under our rules. And although I have been chair for the past year, I wanted to open it up to anyone else that would like to put their hat in the ring. Is there anyone that would like to apply, raise their hand or volunteer? Jillian?
Chair?
Yes. Yeah,
Vice Chair.
all right. Vice Chair, all right. Is there anyone else that would like to make a motion or be involved in chair or vice chair?
I'd like to nominate Linda. So Chair, can we do that?
I guess,
I don't know.
Nominate Linda?
I guess, I think that, thank you. Okay,
Thank you, Michelle.
Well, she has to step down.
I didn't ask to step down, I said, would someone else like to step forward, and I'm more than willing to do either way. So if Jillian and
Okay, the last meeting, that's what I
interested,
heard.
I'm very happy to have you step forward. It's not a difficult task, but it is a little bit of another piece of work to do every. I guess that we need to have an election by vote and just put it through and do a name call, roll call.
Do you want to stand there? I guess that's the question. Like you gotta be willing to do it.
I'm willing to do it. I don't. I certainly wanted to open the floor because I don't want people to feel like I'm monopolizing this. I'm happy to step down and have someone else take the position.
Was that part of our resolution to do this yearly?
We kind of jumped from A to B. We probably should set the policy first and then have the
Yeah.
election.
Yeah, because what I heard the last meeting was that you wanted to, and then Roy says, oh, I wouldn't mind if somebody took my spot. So that's why we're here, and that's why it's on, but we don't have, maybe the policies should come first. And then we can revisit this.
Okay, sure. So what shall the policy be? I guess we need words on a piece of paper.
Oh,
I'm just looking for the resolution to see if I can.
I would propose annual election of officers. I'm not sure what attendance implies, but let's handle the election of officers first.
And then generally hold that the week before, maybe, the end of the year.
yeah, because when there's an election, there's an overlap. You get elected and then 3 weeks later, then, yeah. So why don't we set this for
November.
November in case December we want to take the holidays off.
Yeah.
So an election in November?
I was thinking to meet early December.
Over the first Wednesday of every month.
Yeah.
So that's really enough November, have it solidified by then, I think that would be.
I like that. It's kind of aligned with normal elections.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So when we're talking about elections, it'll be on our mind.
Yeah, okay.
Well, does that mean we're not gonna vote for this year?
Well,
We gotta get.
No, we're just talking
let's
about policy
need
right
the
now.
policies first.
They said I had
And
the
then-
cart before the horse, and I think they may be right. All right, so if we establish a policy that we should have an election in November each year, we should probably stipulate that the election is for the chair and secretary position. There can certainly be a vice chair and a vice secretary. Whereas, I don't know, co-secretary,
That was the term we were thinking, is co-secretary.
okay.
Co-secretary. So
Bob?
have an election for all of them,
Well,
except for the co's?
my understanding is based on how we were set up by the board, we have to have a chair and a secretary. The others are up to us.
Well, this is the resolution. Does it talk about a vice chair in here?
It does not.
Oh, it doesn't. Okay, so then we need to put in a policy for ourselves that we need a vice chair.
It would be helpful to have someone running Zoom and someone leading the meeting. It is a
Yeah.
lot of pieces to juggle when people are trying to see what in.
So the vice chair would run the Zoom? I think so, because you're doing both. Would that be okay?
Presumably
Yeah, that, I
one of the
think
other
that would work
residents-
out,
Yeah.
then it doesn't clutter anything up, you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
lets you focus on being a chair.
Okay, so then that would be Zoom.
I did both on the committee. It's really hard to manage a group,
Yeah.
manage the agenda and use
Yeah.
the technology.
So,
It's a really good idea to have those separate.
Especially on a technology day like today.
yeah. So who knows how to run Zoom, because that's gonna, make you the vice chair.
I don't really know how to run Zoom, and 8 times out of 10 I can get it right, so, it's just a matter of.
It's something I can figure out
I can do it.
probably pretty solidly.
Okay, so then we would have, potential vice chairs within the group.
Yeah.
Yeah,
At
okay.
least one, yeah.
And Jeff Human, he is on the planning commission. He will be appointed as the liaison to the planning commission. That'll be on the January 10th board. So we can also give him, task, secretary. No, I'm kidding. We'll get there, but.
Okay, great, well, Patrick and Bob Walsh have volunteered to be school secretary as well. It would be helpful to have some consistency with the secretary. It's not a lot of documents to juggle, but apparently I made a hash of it this month, so you can see that it does happen. So Bob, do you feel like you have something there that we can call the policy, a few sentences?
Yes.
Will you read it back for us just so we can?
We have an annual election for the following calendar year at the November meeting for chair and secretary.
And then do we need to put something in that says at the option of the group, vice chair and co-secretary will be
Yeah.
elected? Something to that nature.
Road Advisory Committee may choose to elect vice chair and other positions. To give us some wiggle room.
Great. So based on that, do we want to have a vote this evening or do we want to push it to the next month and have the vote in February? I have no strong opinions.
Today,
Telling you.
just keep going.
All right,
If you're okay
so
with that.
that's fine,
You're the
so.
chair.
For 5 more minutes, apparently. All right, so H1B is elect officers. Does anyone have any comments to Bob's policy for the election of officers?
Do we need a vote on that? I'm in favor for this election.
All right, Jillian, makes a motion.
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah.
No, that's fine, I'll
Sorry,
second. All right, so
What about the attendance?
yes,
We
the
haven't
second, we
talked
should
about that
have it, so the attendance policy. is
Let's
tentative.
handle the election.
Okay.
Do
Okay.
that, and then we'll do the attendance, just because, let's keep it simple.
Okay. And
Sounds
it's all
great,
under
thanks.
policy though.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so it is my understanding that for the election of the 2023 officers, we have Jillian, Kerry, and Ian Hubert as chair and vice chair.
Madam Chair, can we,
Linda Smith nominated as chair, Bob Walsh and Patrick Shields as co-secretaries. Yes,
let me take a step back, and
yes.
Jillian made a motion to approve the wording for policy on the officers. I don't know if we had a second.
Linda
I
seconded.
seconded it.
Do we need a vote?
Sure, let's have a vote. Does everyone agree on the language for the election of the officers? Say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Bob.
Do we need to now talk about attendance as a policy? It's on the agenda, I'm just not sure what was
Our
intended.
intention was just to create something in our policy that says, I don't know.
We were trying to guarantee some minimum level of participation such that if people were not attending, then
We have the
potentially
opportunity.
we could swap somebody out, somebody who wants to participate.
Again, they would have to be approved by the board before they'd be allowed to read. So so what I guess we would have to say is, do we say 4 strikes and you're out in a year? Or, we have to choose a number or something, but that would put it so that late in the year, we can make a recommendation to the Board of Trustees that another.
I would do it less than that, just 3, because we only meet once a month. And, even after 1 or 2 meetings, you've lost a lot of information. This is.
I would support 3. That makes more sense.
Yep.
And is that then up to us to vote to kick somebody off, or is it?
Well, it's in our
That's a
policies.
policy, yeah, you don't
We have the opportunity.
I mean, I'm thinking Patrick as an example, you came off your bike, you missed a meeting,
Just a couple meetings.
festival in the world, you're trying to be here and, you can, so.
But it's not mandatory, it's at the
Okay,
choice of the
that's-
committee. Should someone miss 3 calendar year meetings,
Yep.
the committee may recommend to the board that that person be replaced.
That's what I'm getting at, is that little bit of wiggle room that,
Right.
somebody wants to participate and has been participating, but for unforeseen circumstances can't participate.
Right.
And we also have Zoom, so even they could log in during the meeting. In your case, you can make it, either log in during the meeting or watch it later to keep up and have a valid reason why
Yep.
you have missed. I think we don't want to get rid of somebody because they're having a circumstance that was beyond their control.
From personal perspective, I support both sides of that. People need to be here, and I think it affects your ability to perform. And I know that I miss 3 meetings, 2 because of the accident, 1 for another reason. And it was a while to get back in touch with the flow of things. You miss a lot. And so I do think we want to encourage attendance. We want to discourage lack of attendance. And I think it makes us a much more effective group.
May I add one more piece? So if you are a member of the meeting, but you're in Zoom, you're not physically present, you're not allowed to vote on any of the motions.
Participate.
But are you allowed to participate? I think that's something that.
That's
specified.
That's right, it's from the Attorney General.
Okay, I wasn't clear on whether participation as a board member or a committee member was allowed.
Just a voyeur.
So you could speak at the beginning and the end, and that's it. Like everybody else.
Public
You
comment.
can't even do that.
Oh, you can't do that?
No.
I would say we'd run afoul of legal to say that someone could call in from Zimbabwe and as a member of the public comment, but a board member who just isn't here can't. Probably for the public section, would probably fall into dubious freedom of speech items.
Well, you'll have to, I have the Open Meetings Act in my other binder, but
To say anyone globally but a member who's not here can speak to us just doesn't pass the sanity test.
they can't, if they're in the military, that's the only exception.
Doesn't pass the sanity test. You would lose in court.
Do we need to worry about it now though?
No, we don't.
Right, so it's a good point, let's stay on point.
All right,
But
so
I
shall
highly doubt
we,
it'll get to that point.
Yes, I do too.
so we agree that 3 meetings and the committee may request a replacement from the Board of Trustees at that point.
Yes.
I think at a minimum, if you miss 3 meetings, you should not have the ability to vote on an issue that was discussed at those meetings. That's a minimum that I would want to see.
And what happens if you watch the video?
Well, if you're on Zoom, see, if you're on Zoom, you're attending the meeting.
Yeah,
But you can watch it afterwards.
You can't vote if you're not here. So I think that point's academic. If you're Zoom, you can pay attention, you can get the knowledge, but you're not allowed to vote.
Well, I think what we're saying at coercion amount is if you miss 3 meetings,
You can't
or
vote.
relevant topics were discussed, you can't vote.
You haven't been part of the discussion.
Mhm.
You're coming with your own agenda at that point if you miss 3 meetings that we've discussed the issue. That worries me.
So you want to make sure that they are part of the discussion
Before they can vote.
before they can vote, okay?
And I'm thinking it's something that we can impose without having to go to the board.
Yeah, I don't believe our policies need to go in front of the board, do they?
No, it doesn't appear to be the case.
We've had that instance here, you know. One of our members did not come to a bunch of meetings, came to one meeting and took the floor for a number of minutes on an issue that we'd been discussing before.
Yeah.
Okay, it wasn't right.
But they did not log in and watch the videos or participate?
Correct.
Or
Correct.
yeah, so that's, if they're educated on the subjects and they're working on their tasks or to-dos regarding, and they miss because they're in a body cast, I mean, that's, you know, I think, and then coming back, but if you're really engaged in the committee, you know, I don't see them not having, you know, they should have a vote. But if they're just not paying attention, not logging in and all of that, and just showing up and not understanding what we're talking about. Yeah.
I think it's hard to police.
I don't know how we
I
measure that.
understand with what you're saying. I just think it's really.
Okay, so just have.
I don't know. It's not my call. I'm just like I just think if somebody keeps missing meetings, that's what we want to address. And you know, we could keep going down the rabbit hole with more and more rules. And
Except you won't address it until the end of the year to the board, and then wait for the board to say, oh yeah, they're off. In the meantime, we're meeting on items every month.
Mhm.
And I'm pointing this out because this happened here. You know what I'm talking about.
yeah, of course.
And
Does it have to be the end?
I thought it was very offensive.
Does it have to be the end of the year though? Is it a rolling participation?
Well, we said 3 times in the year.
We didn't say when the vote is. If you miss January, February, and March, we can choose in
Come
April.
April, yeah. That's what I'm getting at, like a rolling,
We're leaving it open.
right?
Well, what if they miss January, show up in February, and then miss 2 meetings throughout the year?
We still have the ability after
Still
that
the
third meeting.
Okay. After that third meeting, no matter what. And you know, it's in the minutes, who's here and who isn't.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so are you comfortable with that, Bob? Do you have a couple of sentences that?
Should a member be absent for 3 or more meetings in a calendar year, the committee can choose to recommend to the Board of Trustees that the member be removed.
Yeah, because then the board would have
At
to.
any time. Yes?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
After the
tag
third-
that on there, that
Yeah.
just solidifies
What we mean.
what you.
After the third absence.
That'll help us recruit the right people too. Folks know that, they know it's a serious job we have.
Yeah, and you know, circumstances come up in life and it doesn't mean that, you know.
Okay.
Yeah. And the board would have to appoint, so they would have to be part of the process, of course.
We can only recommend. The board can tell us they don't agree.
All right, so do we make a motion?
So moved.
So Patrick and
Ian,
Eunice a second.
whoever, yes.
Support.
All right, everyone in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, so we now have some RAC policies which we did not have before. The other question I have is, do we just print them in the minutes, or is there any other place that we feel do they need to be put on the website?
Yes.
Or where should they be?
We can include them on our page. Yeah. The more.
When we approve the minutes next week or next month, that'll be the official yes, they're in, and then we can ask them to put in the website.
Plus, that gives a chance if you need to wordsmith that a
Yes.
little bit.
Yep.
Yeah, and what about a policy for agenda items or like with the board, like today, we have a board meeting on Tuesday. Today is the deadline to get anything onto the agenda, and then that packet is released to the public and also the board to have time to review before the meeting. Now, of course, the board has more meetings, but would that make it easier for, because you're pretty good at having a deadline, like anything that needs to get onto the agenda is to the chair or the secretary, however you work it, by a certain date.
I would say by 9 days before. Our target is to try and get, yes,
9
information
days.
out by the Wednesday prior to the meeting, which is 8 days ahead.
And as I do with TAP, I'll send an email out to everybody that's got stuff that they want on the agenda to remind them that it's due 9 days out. So that gives us time to assemble the packet and make sure all the pieces fit.
So the agenda packet items need to be submitted to the chair, to the secretary, to the,
The co-secretary.
okay, to the co-secretary. And Bob's writing all this down, but 9 days before the meeting,
Before the posted meeting date.
for the posted meeting day.
And our meeting dates are now on the website correctly, showing each of the 12 months for 2023.
And then when is the agenda public? You gave a date or the date?
Well, typically when I send it on the 8th day before the meeting, I send it to Christy and she puts it onto the website, you know, as quickly as she gets it there. It's typically on the website at least 5 days before the meeting. Usually 6 or 7. Depending on holidays. It's a little tricky because the township now closes at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So. All right, so we've got that pretty well hammered. Good, thank you, Bob. All right, so H1B, elect officers for 2023 year. We have nominations for chair and vice chair, Jillian, Kerry, and
So Jillian, do you know if a board of trustees member can?
Yes, I looked in, I asked counsel, legal counsel, and they did not see a problem. It's not in our resolution. So, and I only went on that because your announcement last week, or last meeting, so it's.
no offense taken whatsoever,
Okay.
but do I need to split the vote as the Jillian Ian ticket and the Linda ticket? I don't have any idea. This is new ground.
Well,
Well,
and.
let's
and
do
Roy-
these sequentially. Let's do the chair, and then we'll get to the vice chair. That way, if someone wants to put their name forward or not put their name forward, we handle it after the chair. You don't need to put the whole kit and caboodle out all at once, do we?
I have no idea.
This is our first election, Bob, come
I agree
on.
with Bob.
All right,
I agree
so
It's up to
let's,
us.
I guess, let's say, by verbal, raising hands, who votes for Linda Smith as chair? No?
No, just say time out.
Yeah.
At the moment, we have, Patrick has nominated you, Jillian's put her name forward. Is there anyone else who wants to be chair? Let's just make sure we cover all bases.
Yeah, thank you. All right, that being the case, K becomes before us, so I'll let Jillian go first. Nice. All those in favor of Jillian Kerry as chair for the RAC 2023, please raise your hand.
Am I allowed to vote for myself?
And I don't know if
Sure.
Jeff gets to vote or not. Okay, so we have three, all those in favor of Linda Smith as chair, please raise your hand. All right, so shall we do vice chair? Ian Hubert has put his name forward. Is anyone else interested in vice chair as the position? All those in favor of Ian as vice chair, please raise your hand. All right, so Jillian and Ian have been elected chair and vice chair. Bob Walsh and Patrick Shields have offered themselves as co-secretaries for the 2023 year. Are you still willing to serve, gentlemen?
And what does that mean exactly? How did you two work it out?
He does everything else.
So I'll help prepare the packet.
Great. Bob, okay.
So I'll work with you on the agenda as you see fit, and then pull the materials together.
Great.
Does anyone else want to be secretary? Let's not close the door on anyone.
I think 3 is too many.
Well, no, we vote, and we vote. Someone might want the grandeur of the office.
No, that is
I salute you for
that
signing up.
is a position of prestige.
All right, all those in favor of co-chair position, Patrick and Bob, raise their hands. I believe it's unanimous, gentlemen. Thank you very much. All right, so Patrick Shields and Bob Walsh have been elected as co-secretary for the 2023 year, the RAC. And I think we've established a way to elect officers.
One thing that I just thought of, going back to the policy, we said that we would do this election in November. Did you make note that it would become active in January?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, thanks, I missed that.
Great. All right, so the other big piece of business that's actually on the table with us this evening was to create a resolution recommendation for road repair for the Scio Township Board of Trustees. The Scio Township 2023 budget meetings will be happening in February. And we were hoping to get a number. We're not trying to list the names of the roads for the Board of Trustees, but we do need to get them a target. This is what we will request to be spent out of the budget for roads. We probably also need to mention culverts, as we did last year. And there was a couple of requests in our citizens emails about speeds on several of the roads going through the subdivisions. So we also are allowed to request road speed signs under the SAD. It falls in the road accoutrements. An electronic sign that says you're going 39 in a 25-mile-an-hour zone. I researched can be purchased for less than $3,000 if we wanted to try and have that as an offering.
Who brought up about speed, not changing the speed limit, just the having
Monitoring the speed to try and slow people down. Yes.
Does the sheriff's office offer rental on those? I know they have,
There is one.
they only have one.
There is
Okay.
one in the township. They choose where they put it. First, are we able to ask them where to put it? Probably, yes. It wouldn't have to be money spent on that, but if we wanted to add an additional speed sign, my understanding is the Washington County Road Division right now has one digital sign that can be moved around.
Which roads are that they're talking about?
We saw requests from people worried about speeds in the neighborhoods with people cutting through on the roads from Park Road.
Yeah.
Several of them. We saw both country French, but primarily Arbor Point comments about people screaming through the neighborhoods.
Okay, those are private roads.
Yes, they are.
So how does that work with public funds? I don't think we can do
They're
that.
not enforced, yeah, you can't do that, to the best of my knowledge. The county takes care of the roads when.
Is Arbor Point all private roads?
It's a site condo
So when
association.
we did our neighborhood SAD, the township put that speed measure on our roads for 2 weeks. Now, it could be the township's decision to work with the road commission on that, but we had it in our neighborhood for 2 weeks to monitor speed.
You have public roads though, or is your neighborhood, I don't think your neighborhood's private.
It's like condos.
But there's a decision, if it's site condos, doesn't necessarily.
Doesn't have-
private or public
Yeah, it
roads.
depends on-
That's a decision.
It doesn't have a sign that says private roads, so.
This is,
Yeah, I don't think we are a private road.
We don't
but-
need to get lost in that. It had been brought up by a couple of different notes, and so I took a moment to research it to see if that comes up with the Board of Trustees as something that they want to spend money on. It could be added into a resolution or recommendation or not,
Well, you said it was $3,000,
less than.
less than.
That's not bad.
Why don't we buy 2 of them?
Yeah.
We'll worry about where we put them later.
Yes.
It's peanuts money.
it's not in the township-wide road SAD.
It falls under the SAD as road improvements.
But the thing with the special assessment is that you have to list out the improvements when you put the special assessment forward to the public, and that was not included.
Fair enough. I can give or take, but if we come back to more road funding, it may be something that we should include a sentence for it. And that's not tonight's meeting, but that's coming up, so we'll keep that in mind.
And what was that called again, a speed monitor,
Digital speed monitoring device.
Electronic speed limit signs.
Yeah.
That's what we have in the meeting packet.
okay, yeah, there it is. I know, I've got too many papers.
I know.
And then someone had mentioned ARDA funds for culverts. There's additional funds that are available for culverts, but in the Washtenaw County Road Commission packet each year, there are certain bridges and culverts that do need attention. And in last year's budget recommendation to the board, we spelled out, I believe it was $200,000 for culverts separate of road improvements. So that when the call came from the Washtenaw County Road Commission, it was clear that it had been approved. So if there are additional funds available for culverts, sure, let's go try and find them. But in the meantime, in our recommendation, I think we need to call out a monetary value. So Roy Townsend had put together this Excel spreadsheet that is titled Scio Local Roads Gravel and Paved. The current version of it is the December 1, 2022 version. Does everyone have one? I've got a couple more printed here on the table if you'd like one to look at physically.
Oh, that's this one from last meeting.
And I believe everyone was here last month when we talked about the fact that he's got the columns by year, and he's showing you where money was spent by the road commission in each year. And we had a discussion about several roads which had been missed or ignored, and several roads that had been 10 years, and it was time for them to. He has proposed in the blue column, $1,065,000. Includes dust control, the PM surfacing, we discussed the liquid resurfacing. Culverts he's got in at $20,000, no, $100,000. And then he's left the line that says engineering for SADs blank, and we had a long discussion about the engineering, the way that the money for the engineering of the SADs should be allocated at the last meeting. Yes.
And do we have a list of the culverts, the failing culverts in the township, and which one, because he says replace failing culverts, but annual budget of $100,000.
It's a placeholder, I think.
That's a placeholder. There was a list of culverts which are failing with a grade, I believe, of 1
yeah.
through 5 in the 2022 Washtenaw County Road.
We have this report right
I
here.
don't know what they called it. Report, I guess.
Pam Boyd kindly pointed it out to me in the last meeting.
Yeah, so the short answer is, yes, there is a list. Am I prepared to present it to you at this moment? No, but I can tell you that it was in the Washtenaw County Road Commission.
I'm looking for it actually.
January or February, might have been March report that we read into our minutes.
Well, I'm thinking that, is there just one culvert that needs to be replaced right now, or two, or?
No, there was a list of 6 or 8 of them. I believe we did 2 of them in 2022. There were.
Over at Parkland Plaza?
Yes. There were a number of them that were graded at poor to failing last year in the report.
Well, $100,000 is.
It doesn't go that far for commercial
Yeah, it's
roads
gonna be-
and culvert replacement.
A very small culvert.
Yeah, it could be more than that. It certainly, I don't think should be less. It's not just the cost of the culvert, it's actually replacing the broken one, the new one. That's the I think, larger part of it.
Did we set any aside in the last budget for it?
It wasn't in the Washington or in the Scio budget, it was in a report we got from the Washtenaw County Road.
No.
Commission that suggested the roads that they wanted to work on in 2022.
And where is this money coming from to?
That's the key thing.
Yeah.
I think we may be handcuffed if we're saying it's from the township.
No, last year it came from the general fund.
Yeah.
It was requested to come from the general fund.
So
Right.
basically, this from Roy is an overall without specifying source of funding.
Okay.
Obviously, some of the ones listed on the road, should we actually choose to recommend those roads later, would be the township-wide SAD. But then culverts and other things might be from other funding.
Well, and I know with the 2 SADs that they were not included in the budget last year, so that's why they voted to take it out of the general fund, and that didn't go over so well with some people. But so we need to plan ahead, but we're asking, since we're evaluating roads and culverts and whatnot, then we're asking the board. Okay.
All right, so Jillian, you found, I'm looking for the date on this, October 10th, you brought in the 2017 annual audit. We talked about this revolving fund a little bit at the last meeting, 402. And so we were just talking about where funds are coming from. We've got Fund 400, the budget accounts each have a number. So the SAD budget account is known as is 400. And there is a revolving fund that we discussed with Roy and Jillian back and forth at the December meeting that money was put into but never spent, which is known as 402.
And I did check into that again with Sandy, so that the DDA did, it's not DDA money, because that's what we were concerned about. It's so they set this up, whatever that project was, to fund the revolving fund, and all the monies from these different SADs were supposed to go into that revolving fund. And then the interest, all of that. But for some reason, all of these other funds were created, so that revolving fund cannot, so all these other funds are actually It's through the general fund. So every time there's an interest payment or whatever, it goes back into the general fund. But the township-wide revolving fund, I mean, that was the whole idea. And they did, in 2008, the board approved this revolving fund for that reason. So along the way, I don't know. So there's money in there. And the issue is that when we have, let's say Park Ridge comes in front of us and we go through all the steps and we approve for that, the construction, the money's got to come from somewhere because we're waiting 10 years for that money to come back. So we're kind of like really behind. And if that revolving fund was set up and used properly, we wouldn't be in this mess. But the past is past, we've got to, fix it. So the revolving fund, because it's under Public Act 188, we've got to find the resolution language of why, and I do have it somewhere, why that revolving fund was set up. Because if it's used for only neighborhood special assessment districts, then that's all we can use it for.
Well, for example, then, could we, if we can figure that out, specify that be used for the engineering costs for the SADs? That's where funding can come from?
No, because we shouldn't have engineering costs. The road commission comes in and gives us a guesstimate of how much that project's gonna cost. We should not have engineering costs. Unless they're going to, because this is backwards, and I've read through document after document, other townships and what they do, and we cannot, by law, charge just for engineering. So the way that, like, even with the, Patrick, you showed it to me today.
This.
Yeah, right. So when I went through, this is at the
drain petition.
The drain petition, yes. So when I went through that, they didn't do the engineering first and say, oh, this is how much it's gonna cost, you wanna move forward with it. They came in with the neighbors we had, I don't know how many meetings, I can think of 5 off the top of my head. And they said, well, we walked and this is what we figured based on, and if we do it this way or this way, it's gonna cost between $150,000 and $300,000. Do you wanna move forward with the petition? Well, in our case, if we didn't have this fixed, we couldn't sell our houses. We could, but you want to purchase a house that has a flooded yard. So we decided to go ahead, and it ended up being, I'd have to go back, but I think it was like $170,000 for 16 households. And then since it was a health hazard, then the township had to pay a certain amount, then the county paid another certain amount.
Okay, so I'm gonna step back and say, so the 402 revolving fund is not funds that are available. I'm trying to make as specific a recommendation to the board as we can. So if we are looking to make road improvements for 2023, we could specify a number that we suggest be taken from the 400 fund, which is the Special Assessment Road District Fund being held, and a portion that could be taken from the general fund or the culverts. Again, the same way that it was done last year.
Could you repeat that, please?
I think what you're getting at is if you break down Roy's sheet, you look at where he's put an estimate, should we choose those roads, there's about $745,000 there, which would typically be township-wide SAD money, whatever number of funds it comes from. Starting with dust control and going to replace failing culverts, there's $320,000. I don't think those are as township-wide SAD unless they were mentioned in the SAD items. So that 320 would have to come from somewhere else. And that would be, should we take the $1,065,000 as a number to recommend, we would have essentially 2 pots that the township would have to recognize or at least consider from our recommendation to them.
And again, I'm trying to make it as specific a recommendation to the board so that they don't have to spend a lot of time looking at it. If we just give them one number and say, we think you should spend this on roads, they'll say, well, that's great, but where should it come from? they need to adopt their agenda for what their budget is going to be before March gets very far down the line. So we're trying to get information to them as quickly as we can so that it gets in front of them on the next, not this coming meeting to the 11th, but the next week, 4th in January. So, has anyone driven any of the gravel and or paved roads that are listed in the proposed 2023 column here? Specifically Maple, Peters, West Delhi, a couple of versions of West Delhi, North Delhi, Craig Road, Stabler Road, we've got Park at Parkland Plaza, Park at Cedar Road Bridge to Z, which we discussed was not paving, but engineering costs for having that piece better
Say that again?
estimated. Looking at Roy's numbers here. He's got 0.54 miles of Park Road, Cedar Ridge to Z, $150,000. And we had a discussion at last month's meeting, that's not a paving cost. That was to pay for the
gravel.
better engineering costs to understand how that road might be improved.
Yes, that was what that's what I recall Roy saying last meeting.
It was not road improvements physical, it was road engineering costs.
Engineering, drainage,
$150,000.
trees,
And
curb
then
gutter ditches.
Z to end of pavement and Parkland Plaza, end of pavement, Park Road. Did anyone have any comments about Craig or West Delhi, North Delhi, Maple Road? I was on, I think, all of those this past month.
Yeah, I
There are
agree.
certainly others that could be addressed, but
Craig Road, definitely Wagner to Thornapple.
Yes. Stein west of Maple was pretty bad. Scio and Peters were not in great shape.
Scio and Peters, that was just done in 2016.
When I drove them, they weren't in great shape.
Yeah, well,
That's 6
neither are
years.
my roads, but
That's
mine didn't make it to the list. And that's the other thing. I'm looking for the original list of improvements that were under the 2013 special assessment resolution. Can't find it anywhere. So it started out with 29 roads and now we're up to 37. And again, we really need to make sure we're following how it's supposed to be. So I'm still searching. I was in Township Hall earlier looking for that. And there's another file that is not in the filing cabinet. So I'm gonna track that down too.
Jillian, when you say 37, are you including from this list, like the West Delhi being broken up into different?
No, so there's the original list that was presented to the public,
Yes. Yes,
So that only had 29.
okay.
But now we're up to 37 and we don't know how these were, if they were, again, right, like what you said, broken up or added or whatever, but that's.
I just was asking where the 37 came from. This list that Roy's given us or a different?
This is 32.
It's 32, so there's another one that has 37 and I'm trying to get down to the bottom of all of it. So there's these numbers and it's like, why did it keep changing?
Well, I don't know the answer to that question. I'm not sure we're gonna be able to answer that and make a budget recommendation this evening.
Right, but if it was only supposed to be certain improvements under the 2013, that's all we can do by law. Just like when there's a millage proposal, we can't do anything with that money except what the millage proposal And if it's voted in a millage, of course, is stated, if it's approved, the millage ballot language by the voters, that's all we can use that money for. So it's the same with an SAD. If it went in front of the board, they had a resolution, we went through all the steps, which the proper way to do it, then that's all we can use that money for.
I don't disagree with you, but I'm going to respectfully say that what we're trying to give the board right now is a number. We're not telling them which roads. We are asking the Washington County Road Commission to take a look at the roads we suggest. And that could be pushed a month.
In the article that was printed in the newsletter in 2013.
Yeah, I have that.
I just copy and pasted all of these into a text editor and it's telling me there's 31.
There's 31, okay. So that's the problem. That's not a legal document. That is just what was, so, okay, so there's 31 there, okay.
But that came from the first local roads committee.
Just getting back to your question, we're not gonna answer the roads tonight.
The specific street name.
Right, but if we have money set aside for them.
We have, if we look at them, we're having a total. I have no problem saying roughly $750,000 if we want to round up to a 10 instead of for SAD money, and then looking at dust control through failing culverts, another 320. Put that as a placeholder in the budget. I'm all right with that. Those seem like reasonable numbers to me. Figuring out where we spend it is another meeting.
All right, so the dust control is under the township wide?
I don't know where specifically if that is.
Is that,
I'm saying no, I was splitting it off and saying the dust control, local road, paved approach, subdivision, preventive maintenance surfacing, and replacing failing culverts might not be necessarily the township-wide SAD, but it's money the township should consider budgeting someplace because those items probably should happen.
okay.
Isn't the total number established with the township-wide SAD?
We know in what sense, I guess I'm jumping to conclusions.
Well, where'd the 750 come from?
The 750 is just, if you look at the numbers that are specific.
You're just adding them up.
I'm adding them up and saying.
320. Minus, I understand.
Yeah, I'm just saying that's a reasonable number to go forward with.
I get it, but isn't there already a budget established that is allocated towards the roads? Or not?
No,
No,
So,
we have to suggest that.
we make recommendations.
so where's the board going to get the money from? What funds it?
Well, that's what we were just saying, the Fund 400 Special Assessment District money is there available to be spent on, to Jillian's point, we have to be careful, the roads which were originally listed in the township-wide SAD request.
But that's a finite number.
It is a finite number, but there is a good deal of money in that fund right now, and it exceeds, I believe, $1.3 million. Plus the money that's coming in with the winter taxes, which are being processed.
So you're
right
saying
now.
there's more money than we
Yes.
really need to spend?
Yes.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yes, and then the question is, there are some other items here which do additionally need attention that should not be taken out of Fund 400. We could say general fund and then the township board may choose to draw it from somewhere else, but we want to draw attention to the fact that there is additional money that needs to be spent.
Well, I'm with Bob, but I would like to have a real deep dive discussion on the Park Road issue. I don't know if we plan on doing that tonight, but I've got some very firm opinions on it.
It looks like we have some people who are listening this evening that also have some firm opinions. I have about 9 people on Zoom. I would like to try and come to an agreement on the recommendation for the board. So we have something that we can put together for their second January meeting so that they can consider it. If they have questions or concerns, they can come back to us in early February and still have time to get these numbers into their budget, as opposed to pushing this into the February meeting and trying to do that in March, right, for the budget.
Well, we have an audit presentation 24th.
And that's why we aren't gonna take up much time. This is a written recommendation. It doesn't even have to, it can go into, you know, discussion or it can go into a consent agenda for a different meeting too. It could get pushed to the first meeting in February, certainly if it needs to. I'm sure Supervisor Hathaway will put it where he needs it to be. I'm just trying to timely present them with some numbers.
I'm saying that before their second meeting in March.
The 2023 budget must be adopted before April 1st. There are 2 meetings in March, the second Tuesday and the fourth Tuesday.
When did they give the deadline? I remember they sent out an email to all the committees, a deadline for their budgets.
I was told that February 8th, thereabouts, they were trying to have a working session. They wanted the numbers before, was what I understood from the Township board meeting 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago, okay.
That was a target. I don't know that it's a target estimate. And we won't have met again. Didn't have time to really get it to them for February meeting.
Well, you know, Roy came up with this proposed 2023, 1 million, what was it?
1,065,000.
65.
You know, and I believe when I sat down with Roy and Jess, Roy invited us to sit down, the clerk. And there's about 1.3 million in the road funds. So if we ask for this, and then at least we'll be on that same level as what Roy is saying, that if we do 750,000 and we ended up needing 1 million and we have a whatever, then we're gonna be kind of in trouble. It's better to ask for more than less, I think, at this point.
If they don't spend all of it that's budgeted, there is no penalty, no. It's more difficult for them to go back and allocate change the budget.
I'm just a little concerned about the culverts. We need to get more information about that as far as but if we put the money in there, we're not gonna, I don't know.
We're just putting a placeholder at this
So
point.
Roy said annual budget of $100,000, he's asked for 120. He was asking a little high.
So an annual budget,
If you look at this third column, it says annual budget.
yeah, I see that, but an annual, so we've been, well, this is only our first year, so before that, they put aside 100,000 for culverts in the annual budget?
They did not, we requested them to
Okay,
add money. There was nothing for culverts at all.
This is I'm just showing Jillian, there's a document from the Washington Road Commission, and on page, I think like 22 or something.
That's the
What
one I
year
was
is that?
looking for, yeah.
Yeah, I was just trying to find a way to share my screen, but essentially it's got the culverts segregated into 2 groups. One is, I think, 5 to 20 inches, and the other is 20 inches and greater. And they're using red and green to kind of distinguish which ones are good and bad. I'm colorblind, so I'm probably the worst person to do this.
there's 4.
But I think, yeah, there's 4 culverts that are a circular pattern, so therefore 5 inches to 20 inches, that are in what's labeled as poor condition. So they're not showing, it's not a huge number of bad culverts from what I can see.
It's not 1, but
And
it's
then
not 10.
That
It's
one
4.
that, I think the one at Park and Z, or Stabler, I believe the developer is, because there's a bridge over it.
And
That's right.
that's, again, we're getting into, some of these may
Yep.
not be township responsibility anyway.
Yep.
So we're still just putting a placeholder in.
Yeah, but just to give us a rough
Right.
idea.
No, I think
you
it's
know,
good.
I mean,
Could you identify the other 3 just for?
one is on West Delhi Road, south of Miller Road. Another one, I don't know, what's that? Let's go.
Where,
Yeah, is
number
that,
12, or the 12?
yeah, is that Park Road? Park Road to the east of Zeb Road.
Oh, really?
It's up by you, isn't it?
Yeah, but,
And then there's one on Knight Road.
mhm. I think I know where the one is on Park Road East. Mhm. I'm gonna take a different route then, because it's right under the road.
West Delhi, south of Miller, Park Road east of Z, Knight Road, and Park Road at Stabler.
Yep.
Are the four that.
Approximately.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, I can screenshot this and send it to you guys if you want.
Send the link.
I have.
Oh, you have the document.
I
Sorry.
have both. I'll do everything.
Thank
All
you,
of the
Ian.
above.
I was trying to pull that out of my file and I've just got too much paper here.
Yep.
All right, so we will get that report from the Washtenaw County Road Commission again. My recollection is that it arrived in February for us last year. And we were scrambling as a new committee trying to pull together budget recommendations. I'm gonna say in Roy's absence that, he probably put his opinion in this column for culverts at $100,000 for a reason. We can certainly ask the county road commission if they have other ideas. Yes.
I'm guessing he needed a cushion there probably. Yeah.
I guess it's better to have a little bit than none.
Yeah. Well, it kind of goes in line with what you were saying too. It's better to ask for more than.
Okay, and then his idea of the preventative maintenance surfacing. Do we feel that preventative maintenance surfacing of subdivision SAD roads is a SAD local roads expense under Fund 400 or should be drawn from the general fund? That falls kind of under the SAD
Yeah, and the general fund,
listing. It doesn't have to come out of the general fund.
Right.
It would be better for it to come out of the 400. And because it is the roads that were resurfaced with SADs.
well, okay, so resurface, so that he's saying subdivision SAD PM surfacing, which,
May or may not be roads that were in that original.
well, they weren't at all because it's neighborhood. It sounds like it's neighborhood.
Okay, so
But there's like East Delhi, North Delhi, Marshall, part of Marshall, Pratt, Stabler. Those are paved, a little bit of Park, of course, but that surfacing, that PM surfacing would fall under, because, under that part. But-
Roy included this as as we're going forward, whatever path we choose to fund road improvements going forward, we are, per the SAD process, supposed to provide some sort of preventive maintenance from the township once these roads are done, if they are non-private roads. That doesn't necessarily have to be in this 2023 proposal. I think Roy was putting it in there saying, I think it was part of the presentation he had with you and Jillian, was there is a way to extend the length of these roads, of survivability if we have maintenance. We just have to do it.
There's no question, but it's really the funding part of it that's the issue.
And we maybe don't recommend it this coming year because of the funding. That's optional. The rest of the board can find it's a good thing to do potentially. If the money's not there, then we don't until we get the next round of funding approved.
well, there will be a little bit more money, Bob, coming in from the winter 2022 taxes. I don't know what the number is.
So from the SAD, the township-wide SAD doesn't cover that 200,000. So that's a different budget discussion for the board.
Well, at least we know, yeah, we have a kind of a guesstimate here.
Yes.
And then we can pick apart the rest of it. And I did put a call into Jim Fink to sit down and go through the SAD process or whatever, the past process and get the legal insight. Because we need to get this straight.
We do, I think it would be a good idea, and Jillian, I'm gonna ask that you help with it because you've got a better handle on that. Try and find that original township-wide SAD road list for the February meeting if you can.
Yeah, I mean,
If anyone can find it, I'm confident you can.
it's probably in my closet at home somewhere. No, I don't have it. I really
Well,
just
but
don't.
it would be nice to say that we have diligently attempted to make sure that the funds were spent correctly. And if, to the best of our ability, we have done what we can do. I don't think anyone's gonna do more.
And it should have been part of the resolution, but it's not there. So hopefully it's in that file. We'll see.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is that you said, we just want to get it right. Not to get this information, but we need to get it right going forward. Learning a lot of lessons at this point.
All
Yeah,
right,
learning curve steep, right?
so
Steep all you.
moving back and putting together 4 or 5 sentences as a resolution recommendation to the Township Board of Trustees. Let's use some happy words like the Scio Township Local Roads Advisory Committee recommends to the Scio Township Board of Trustees that funding be allocated for road and culvert improvement in 2023.
Did we did this last year. Do we have the document that we sent over to them? Or at least the wording, maybe that would be easier.
Good point.
Wouldn't that have been nice?
I don't think that would be in our minutes though, would it?
Well,
Oh,
yes,
it
it should be. If someone
Yeah,
can go
right,
to the
'cause we're talking
township,
about-
if someone can go to the township website and
She's
look
got
up
all the minutes in her
minutes.
notebook.
So.
It was the March meeting. 2022.
It was March, you said?
I'm quite sure.
March 1.
Oh, wait, no, here it is. Okay, I'm sorry, it's the February meeting. The February draft minutes I've got in front of me, it says, we, the Road Advisory Committee, recommend the Board of Trustees allocate funds to match the local Washtenaw County Road Commission local roads matching program for the township. So this, I'm sorry, this is the wrong one. So that's another piece. Each year, Washtenaw County Road Commission offers a matching program to townships of the county. And last year's amount was $1,027. And we asked the Board of Trustees, separate of these funds that we're talking about right here, to allocate matching funds to the Washtenaw County Road Commission. So we shouldn't forget that part. We know it's coming. We don't know what the amount is yet because it hasn't been given to us. We probably will see it this month. Where is the minutes for March?
Yeah, it looks like for looking at all of these agreements between the township. This has to do with dust control. So 2021, is that what you just referenced was 2021?
I've got the road resolutions. I wrote the minutes. I've got my document.
Oh, good.
Local
Thanks.
Road Advisory Committee recommends the Scio Township Board of Trustees allocates $400,000 from township-wide SAD funds for WCRC work and $100,000 for culvert restoration/replacement. Based on the draft of the Scio Township agreement, which leverages $100,027 in local matching funds from 2022. That was last year.
Okay. So this year, we have not yet been given the matching funds in the program for 23.
But we can still recommend that they put aside that amount when it's available.
Yes.
We certainly wouldn't want to give up that work.
Yes, I don't know that we can name a number, but we can specify the matching program for the Washington County Road Commission.
We could note that it was 100,027 last year.
Okay, let's add that to the resolution. So now we have sort of the front end of the resolution and a back end of the resolution, but we need the middle.
You said it was 127,000.
$100,027
And where are you seeing that, Linda?
That is in the minutes of February 2, 2022, for the proposed resolution that we made for
For the matching.
For specific to the matching funds.
Right. And the 2022 road work resolution was in the March 2nd. That's what I submitted.
Yep. All right, so the concept was the language. Shall we, the road advisory committee, recommend that the board of trustees allocate funds? This is sort of the language we used for the front end of the recommendation. We want to say recommend that they allocate funds in the amount of $1,065,000, $750,000 of which we recommend come from Fund 400 Special Assessment Road District, balance from the general fund. We want to go that specific.
Yeah, it makes it very clear.
In addition, we would recommend that they allocate funds to match the Washington County Road Commission local roads matching program.
Well, we can only go to 1,065,000 from what he, so, well, wait a minute, because the matching, okay. Jeez, that March was a very large packet and the staple couldn't even go through. So, all right, so if we have the matching, you said the matching grant or the matching money, what did you say was again? How much was that?
100,027.
Oh, 100,027, okay.
So the township budgeted that and then the county met it. And typically in the past, that money has been used for dust control. Spot maintenance, I don't know what. Ancillary maintenance.
Yeah, that's right. And I remember the DDA ended up having the rest of, what was it last year? The rest of the grant money, matching grant to Enterprise Drive. Which
Didn't happen.
no, what happened? Enterprise Drive.
Enterprise did that, or not,
Oh, Dino, right, no, Enterprise Drive. All right,
so we could back up $350,000 out of the general fund and say $100,000. A portion of which need to be a match for the Washington County Road Commission local roads matching program.
Dust control was,
We need to get there.
the dust control was part, and I don't remember exactly what, I'd have to go dig for that. We can just note that in Roy's thing, that there's 320,000 for dust control, subdivision SAD, preventive maintenance, culverts, and paved approach to local roads, noting that some of this may be covered in part by the Washington County Road Commission matching local funds.
We do need to make sure we've got the word culvert in our request.
Yes.
So I'm wondering, we still got a lot of pieces that we don't quite know. Last year, we made this recommendation in our February meeting, our March meeting, and we had a lot more information. Maybe we've done enough homework for now that we should wait till the next meeting when we've got these important facts that we're hunting out.
And what was our date for the next meeting? It's
February 1st.
February 1st.
Yeah.
And we need to have this to the board by the 8th?
I believe it's the 8th.
Yeah.
So that does give us a few days. I'm not adverse to that, but I would request that this be put as a priority on the agenda.
But we're all scrambling for facts that are knowable.
We're scrambling for facts. Well, the question is how much detail do they need for February 8th? If they need something to put in to patch so they have an idea of an approximate amount, I think we're probably in a reasonable shape. If we want to get into the specifics, then no, we're not ready. I just don't know what's required for the 8th.
You know,
They need a number.
but that's a good question. How much detail do they need for the budget? Do they want it down to the penny or do they want it just kind of broad?
For the final submission, I would say they probably want it fairly detailed. For February 8th, if that's when they're starting to sit down, I would say, I would guess, if I were to give its general direction, then you hone it down from there. Usually you put an estimate out, then you sharpen your pencils and figure out what you can afford.
I would be willing to bet that we will have more information from the Washington County Road Commission by the February.
Yes.
meeting. But if we do not, we will have to act at that meeting.
But we have the basics of a motion ready to roll. If we don't get any more information,
We don't have to do anything tonight, I think is what the final answer is. Should we not want to? We have the basics. Should that be what's necessary for the 8th that we can provide on February 1st, and we can do a motion February 1st. We may have the Washington County proposal in our hands by then.
I'm comfortable with that.
How about this, how about what are the questions that we had tonight? I mean, it's,
Specifically.
yeah, and then we can give the answers to that, bring it back.
What does
Yeah.
the township need for their first meeting on February 8th, and what other deadlines are there leading up to the final budget submission?
Wait.
What level of detail does the township want us to add with our recommendation specifically? I think is 1. 2,
Level of detail.
Jillian, we discussed, finding that list of original township-wide SAD roads, if we can. If you can, frankly. And 3rd, let's try and determine what, if we can receive it from the county, the Washington County Local Roads Matching Program amount is for 2023, 2024.
23, 24, okay, so that's number 3.
That will help us frame how, because we anticipate we have another $100,000 that would be matching funds that could come into this. And then we know what $750,000 from the SAD fund and 250 plus $100,000.
Does that matching number come with the proposal? That's a request by us? How does that work?
I believe it. Did
They
they?
made it as 2 recommendations last year. Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out how that,
Because we didn't know better. We didn't know it was coming last year.
gotcha.
When did they submit to us their?
I think it was late January. This meeting where we made the recommendation in draft minutes was February 2. So we had it by that point in time. They are creatures of habit typically.
They've
All
got
right, so that's
budgets as
another,
well.
while we're talking to them about the their
And then if we understand, Board of Trustees may just say, just give us a number. We don't care, work it out with the road commission, let us know. Or they may say, we'd like to know down to the finite, but it would be great if we could say we thoroughly investigated. And the roads, this funding is going towards the roads that were originally intended under the township-wide SED.
Yeah, I think that the more specific though, just to
Okay.
yeah.
Yes, definitely.
It's important for us to understand this for next year.
Okay, I'm satisfied with that. Bob Groden asked if we could have a discussion about Park Road, although it's not specifically on the agenda. So, we have one more item on here, over tonight's meeting that says create a recommendation for the Board of Trustees suggesting a millage or SAD large enough to include subdivision roads in addition to local connector roads in 2024 to replace the use of the neighborhood SAD process. This is something that we brought up at the last meeting. And it would supersede then that engineering cost of SADs. His recommendation, if you recall, was that we sort of eliminate that step. Not have SADs particularly moving forward at the township.
Well, the one idea that he had brought up is that if we did all the roads as is, so if you have a gravel road, then you're maintained as gravel. But if you want, your neighborhood wants to go from gravel to paved and SAD, we would go down that road, but this would give us time to get the process and a policy in place. And it would take a lot of pressure off committee.
Yeah, it's a lot more focused that way, I think.
Yeah. Now, with the millage, a millage can be used for the general public pleasure. So when we pay into a millage, let's say it's a library millage and we don't use the library, but it's for the general public. A special assessment cannot be for the pleasure of the general public. So then this is where we get into the issue. This last 10 years, we've all been paying, all the parcels have been paying into the road SAD. And only certain people have been benefiting from that. And a benefit means the property value has gone up because of the improvement and the general public has used all the roads. So then, they did it in Texas Township, but with their township-wide SAD, they did all the roads. With a special assessment, let's say we're gonna decide we're gonna do a special assessment for the next 10 years, we're gonna do all the roads. However, private road residents are paying into that special assessment and they are not receiving a benefit. They're not getting their roads improved. So we're in this conundrum.
I would disagree with that. As a resident of a private road, the value of my house, I have to drive public roads to get to my private road.
That's a personal benefit. It doesn't benefit the.
It benefits the property value of my house.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
No, because there's not an improvement in front of your house.
No, that's not. My house benefits by the perceived value of Scio Township. I can get 3 different appraisals of my house. None of them are gonna be within $850 of each other.
Well, that's not the point. See, you're missing the point.
No, that is the point.
No, it's not. I have read case law after case law. And if we want to take this to the courts, we can do so. And that's what's going to happen if we do the same type of SAD, where, my roads could be considered as a connector road. They're really crappy, but we haven't received a benefit and we're all paying into this. Private roads are not receiving a benefit. And the definition of a benefit is a specific improvement that raises the value of the property in that district.
And I would argue.
from the improvement. You can argue all you want, but take it to the tax tribunal, take it to the courts. Now, I provided files and files of case law, statute and whatnot. Has anybody read them?
Yes,
Okay,
I disagree with the way that your interpretation is, but I have read them.
okay, well,
I think that it is not an argument that we're going to solve as it's being.
well, I'm bringing up the issues with the township-wide SAD. Now, a millage makes a lot more sense because we all pay into a millage, private road or not. And if we ever, all the roads except private, because by law, we cannot take public funds and put it into a private road.
But now we're getting into opinions again. What we're gonna take forward to the board, and you are part of the board, is a recommendation that you have options on how you can fund the roads. How you choose to fund is up to you, the board, to decide.
Okay, go ahead.
So yes, there is a millage, that's an option. An SAD is an option. You don't have to go to the voters with a millage. We can get money other ways. But again, the point is, we're gonna give the board options and the board will make the decision.
What the policy I think that Roy was trying to push forward here was, instead of asking for a small amount to just repair small
Specifics.
roads, to ask for a larger amount from a
And that's another option.
relatively well-to-do township, whatever the mechanism was, and do a bigger job
Yes.
of correcting the roads over the next 10 years,
Yeah.
requesting those funds starting in 2024.
And that process is built into whichever method we use.
Yes.
It's a question.
Right.
Is to stay small and just address specific known problems, or do you look more globally and go larger? I personally can say, as a large commercial landowner in the township, that I would benefit by better township roads, but I would pay a very large share, portion of the millage. And SAD would be much kinder to me on a per property basis. I can tell you, a number of retired residents who just the SAD was a difficulty for them. So there's two sides to every coin.
Pros and cons to each, and that hopefully would be part of what we take forward.
But what I want people to think about is really more the global picture. Do as we're trying to come up with the correct mechanism here, we wish as a body to advise a larger sum to correct many of the roads in the township? Or do we wish to again try and choose 27 or 35? Carry that forward and maybe we can bring that to the February meeting and see. We need to be able to advise relatively quickly in 2024 what we want.
So there's two questions then, is there? One is how much? And two is the mechanism. Mechanism being, obviously there's some controversy here. SAG versus whatever.
Versus millage.
Versus millage. But if we segregate it to, one, we have to make a decision on how much, and two, how.
My understanding from a presentation that Jessica Flintoff, the clerk, made to us more than a few months ago was that there are deadlines if we wish to create a millage in 2024 that would have to be met so that we can get onto the November ballot in 2024.
If we put it on the ballot,
If it were millage, it would have to go onto the ballot, I believe.
township can do a levy.
This is true, so this is yet another format.
We're working on it. We'll try to bring you something in February.
11. Restrictions like a village or an SAD, or is it?
Well, whatever, it needs, the public needs to be involved.
I heard enough from the lawyers, and I'm not a lawyer, that an SAD to me is a time bomb, and I won't vote for an SAD. FYI, I'm with Jillian, sorry, Bob. but I think they're bloody tricky and they're really risky.
Well, and so that was sort of the third piece.
Again, I'm not a lawyer,
Well,
so.
to be blunt, the only person who has a vote is Jillian because she's the only one on the board. We can just make a recommendation.
There's 6 other board
Right,
members.
but I mean, the people here,
This body.
Yeah.
But the last piece of that, and it was well put, the way that it framed right there, is, do we recommend moving forward that SADs should be a mechanism allowed in the township at all? We had that discussion last month as well, because of the amount of time they take, the trickiness of the legal factor of it, and the difficulty of getting a neighborhood to agree. Or should it just be superseded by?
Well, what if it's a private road where they want to use that mechanism to do something?
They have, well, Saginaw Hills came forward, a gentleman 2 meetings ago and said Saginaw Hills as a group of, I don't remember, I'm sorry, 26 members voted as an HOA and they paid the bill themselves.
Well, they put the money aside over years because they knew that their roads would be.
Right.
And there's 60
So
households
that
over
that was the answer he gave. He said, sure, we'd love to have the township step forward, but it wasn't going to happen. So we took care of it.
roads, private roads could come to the township. The township, as stated, can always say, sorry, we're not interested.
Right.
Well, for a number of reasons, not
But
least
yeah.
where they're shorthanded and
Right.
they don't have the
But again, it's,
bandwidth to do it.
the township has the right to say, we can't take this on, sorry.
Okay, well, that's a discussion point. It remains unfinished business. And push that down the line. I think we got a lot done this evening. Do we have any report you wish to make from the board of trustees, Jillian?
Our last board meeting, geez. Okay, we've had December 13th, that was a month ago. And then we had a special meeting on the 27th. And that was, there was one agenda item, and that was to hire, approve the contract for our interim administrator, Mark Thompson, which we did. So he's on board, have you met him yet? He's a great guy. And then the December 13th meeting. Oh my God. Yeah, I can't think right now. Too much going on.
That's fine. The DDA hasn't met since our last meeting. There is a DDA meeting on January 9th. I'll make a report about that in the next meeting. Planning Commission, I guess we'll sort of transition to Deputy Minister who will be our new liaison with the Planning Commission. This is formally appointed by the Board of Trustees, so he'll be here for our February meeting. Rob and Patrick, does anyone within the group have comments or?
I just want to say, talked to Roy today. So the TAP committee is being merged with Parks and Preserves. And Anna will provide a regular report of the activities of Parks, Preserves, and Pathways. So we've got that nailed down.
Bob, did you want to discuss Park Road at this point in time?
You want to postpone it until next meeting, or what's everybody's feeling?
Doesn't matter. Whatever you want to do.
We did have not less than 10 emails from concerned citizens.
Really interesting.
I'm not sure, I think the HOAs must have sent out something, and Country French as well as Arbor Point.
Well, let me just say what my observation is and give you my opinion. I guess I leave it up to you to convince me I'm wrong. I drove Park Road, and what I see is it's It needs to be rehabilitated, much in the same way we did East Delhi. Substrate needs to be redone, crowned, limestone. I drove all of Park Road and it becomes dirt road way after. And I don't see it appropriate to spend taxpayer money to the tune of $1 million to do a half a mile of paved road. I just can't support that or justify it for a half mile of road that I believe can be rehabilitated. And it seems to me the township has let this road be neglected. I think it was done on purpose, done intentionally. So convince me I'm wrong.
So ironically, when I was driving Park Road, Bob was driving one way and I was driving the other. So we both drove it at the same time, but approached it from different directions. I really, really feel for the people who are suffering with dust issues. And I don't like the fact that people are cutting through the neighborhood to avoid Park Road. My assessment of the road itself, and I agree absolutely with Bob, that the gravel is broken down so badly that it is mud at this stage. And if it had been maintained properly and dust controlled, I would like to think that it would be a lot better on the residents of those two adjoining neighborhoods. So I really, really feel for the people who are speaking up, but I do not think that the SAD fund is the right fund to be doing anything other than what was agreed in the initial SAD. And the fact that there is money available from the state of Michigan is great, but I don't think pairing that with the SAD fund is within our jurisdiction at all. So I would love to see something done, because to me it's a little bit crazy that there's a paved road and then a section of gravel and then a little bit more paved and you hit Zeeb. I'd love to see something done, but I don't think it should be done within the township-wide SAD. So I feel for people, but I don't think that them asking us to vote in favor of paving from this fund, the fund wasn't set up to do this. I've never seen any evidence to date showing me that the original SAD, as it was set up in 2013, had this work in mind. And every other argument above and beyond that is immaterial, in my opinion. So I agree with you, Bob. I would love to see the work be done, because I do feel for the people who are living there. But to a degree, doing the uplift of gravel and the dust control may tell a different story. And I would love to see that done as soon as possible, really.
John Reiser, the trustee John Reiser and I drove that. He wanted to see, and from my perspective also, everything that we've studied here. And yeah, the road is 6 to 8 inches lower than the sides, and it's supposed to be a dome. And the one thing that, I know a lot of those emails said, oh, once we get it paved, then we can get a lower speed limit. And Reiser has a lot of, he's worked for many municipalities, and he said the speed limit is, that's not through the road commission, and it's not through the township. We have nothing to do with lowering, no matter what. So where does that come from? I think it's the state.
I believe so.
Or the state police or something.
Do an assessment of the speed zones in the area and set it.
So it's a possibility, but we don't have that magic. And I do agree. I think it's kind of stupid to have, paving and no paving and then pavement. However, it boils down to the funding. And in the original, I talked to David Reed, he was on the original road advisory committee. And I said, where did this paving idea come from? Because if it was original, it would have been in the money. And he said around 2019-20, he doesn't know where the idea came from. And I don't know if it had to do with because the developer and hey, let's have this idea of doing it all at the same time or whatever, but there's only, from his records, only $107,000 were put aside for the gravel. Well, he broke it down because, you know, there's the rest of Park Road going west. So some of those funds have already been allocated and used for the gravel on the other side. So it's a conundrum here. Now, the other thing is that there's something with Arbor Point in their deed regarding funds for paving Park Road or funds going towards that. And it's a 51% of the vote, but it kind of sounds like it was supposed to go through a special assessment, which is like, that's a really odd thing to put into a deed. And if, I don't know, I have the records, I'd have to read through it again. But it wouldn't be fair for them to pay for it when their internal roads are broken down and they haven't put money, again, those are private, so that's their business, but it's kind of stuck here. It's this.
We're discussing the Trailwoods, was it?
Trailwoods has that developer has an agreement with the county to pave part of Stabler, fix those bridges, and then all the way up to
Cedar Ridge.
Pardon me?
Cedar Ridge.
Cedar, well,
This goes way back.
almost to Cedar Ridge.
This shows.
There's the boundary line.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay. And they do a lot of dust control over there already, correct?
They dust control it twice a year.
I don't think they've done that part though, because there's no gravel, or have they, do you know if they've done that?
They come down the road with sodium chloride dust control typically twice a year sometimes.
There's nothing to bind it to. Patrick was talking, or
But yeah,
Roy was talking about that.
so they did go all the way to Z.
Roy was talking about that last time because there's been no gravel. There's nothing to bind.
Yes, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
And they have done so.
That's what the two gentlemen were discussing at our last meeting, was cutting through the neighborhoods, correct?
To avoid the gravel road, yeah.
In the spring, because there is no longer a gravel base there, that road is arguably one of the worst in the township because of the volume of traffic. You can see Trailwoods is just really getting started. I think they're only in phase 2.
So with that being paved, finishing that, wouldn't that in essence increase traffic going through the neighborhoods?
The argument is that they would then take Park Road instead of going through the neighborhoods to avoid the dirty roads. The road's not just putting dirt on the cars. There's ruts that develop in that because it was some grades so bad.
So the one resident who came last meeting and lives in Trailwoods was saying that people are cutting through Trailwoods currently to avoid the dirt road on Stabler and that kind of more western portion of Park Road. But that's going to get paved. That's going to be done by the developer, and his problem is going to go away. Problem that isn't going to go away is people keep driving east on Park Road. They hit Cedar Ridge, and they can dart through one of those two neighborhoods, Arbor Point or Country French Estates, to avoid being on Park Road. And then they're on private roads and they're damaging, you know, the private roads of one of those two communities.
And has anybody was there any discussion about putting speed bumps or anything in?
Not done on public road.
No, in the subdivisions themselves.
Country French
Country
does have
French has
speed bumps.
They,
Harbor Point does not.
15-mile-an-hour limit.
A part of it, what I was trying to find there, I provided Don with the June 2021 packet that was sent out when they had the meeting for Park Road, just because he's new. And that's got the listing of what the different neighborhoods, numbers of people are in. I didn't find in that packet, but there is somewhere a listing that funding for that road was not just for the improvement of the road. If you remember, the Washington County Road Commission required both a traffic light and a pedestrian crossing at Zeeb Road as a part of this project when it was brought forward as a theory to them in June of 2021. And so, and it's, there's pros and cons there. It's a stop sign right now, Park Road and Zeeb Road. And arguably, you can get in and out off of Park Road with the stop sign, but the kids in the neighborhoods are not really very well connected on the east side of Zeeb Road to the kids in the neighborhood on the west side of Zeeb Road, and a pedestrian crossing there. If you've ever watched people with strollers and dogs try and get across that road, is past due, and really there should be more than one of them. But they also were requesting, as a part of, I guess, the Parks and Pathways, to tie in the trail to have a sidewalk trail all the way along Park Road from Zeeb Road down to tie into the Trailwoods new sidewalk, which ends abruptly at the end of there. I think it's phase 2 right now, just about directly across from 6101 Park Road, or 600 feet east of State Road approximately. Which is a very heavily traveled sidewalk by the people in the Trailwoods subdivision. Would they walk across the street to get a coffee or drop off their dry cleaning if they could?
You know, this street light or the 4-way stop or whatever, not 4-way stop, it would be the street light.
It's a full street light.
Yeah, so when I talked to the road commission about that, they didn't say that that was part of what they required. They just said, I said, so this is what's going on with this Park Road. This is what I'm being told. And I said, brought up the street light, and they said it would be like $400,000 or something.
The street light was a major part of the cost of the improvement to Park Road. It was all lumped together as one sum.
And what sum is this? And I'm confused. I don't.
Whatever the number was that they
Million,
brought
whatever.
forward in June of 2021 when they were presenting this, was it $1.2 million? I honestly don't remember. I can't find the piece of paper that had the numbers on it.
So who was presenting this? The
Scio Township sent out to all the neighborhoods, all the neighbors in the neighborhoods, this 3-page document that I gave to Don.
yeah, that was a township wide or a
Yes, so
township.
who proposed it? It was a township meeting that was held. I don't know who specifically.
It was Lou Kidder and Will Hathaway. And that was the 700 letters that went out that said that the township had initiated this Park Road SAD, which has never happened because it never went in front of the board.
Right.
But the road commission did not say that we needed a light and a pathway. Anyway.
You would need a couple lights there, to be honest.
Well, there are lights proposed in the project, which I believe they brought into the project. I may have misinterpreted. My remembrance was that they were required by the road commission when this was floated in front of the road commission. I suppose by whoever, did the initial investigation. I think what we were trying to get back to is it's an awful lot of money for a small amount of road. I don't disagree. As a property owner on Park Road, I probably need to recuse myself from that, but I can tell you that I've spent arguably more hours on Park Road watching that traffic. And it's a bad road, it's been for many years. But what we do about it initially for this 2023 budget, right now we're proposing engineering costs of $150,000 to get a better handle on what it really means. And that's a proposal that was put together in Roy's estimates. It doesn't have to be, but we do need to participate with the road commission and try and listen to the citizens and do the right thing. I don't know what that is.
Well, it sounds like a mixed bag from a lot of the residents over there on what they want. But your two outlying things are, one, your speed management, and then two, cutting through the neighborhoods. I mean, I I've been through polo fields many times, especially when they put the roundabout in down there at Zee and Liberty.
Guilty.
And,
Yeah.
you know, those people were less than happy for us going through there.
Those are
However,
public roads.
yeah. However, I think that would be a major outlier right there. And I've been down that road. Yeah, you can pretty much drive as fast as you want on it. You know, and
Park Road.
yeah,
It's not gonna change.
Right.
yeah.
You know,
It's still
that's-
gonna be
I
55.
mean, look at the highways, you
I
have 70
think-
mile per hour limits there, how fast do you go?
Right. So
I had
if,
80 miles an hour, people are passing, and there are state troopers here, so people don't obey speed limits.
No, they don't.
You won't have anybody mind.
they don't,
They don't
but
have anybody mind.
I think that would be the major focal point is the speed management, one, and best deterrent to keep these people from driving through the neighborhood.
Well,
If it is, you know, collectively decided to pave that,
and it is 55 and it's gonna stay 55
it
even if
will
it's
always
paved.
be 55, I'm sure of that.
Unless,
And that's kind of the minimum, to be honest.
well, for any,
But people are gonna drive faster, is the point. And we don't have any place to monitor it or.
But Linda, as to what you were saying about having, you know, that looked at by an outside, you know, an engineering company or somebody, or a contractor to look at that and, you know, to say, hey, this is what it needs, I would say that those would be two.
well, couldn't the road commission do that, just like they did with Park Ridge?
Mhm.
Yeah, they wouldn't charge, and they're already involved because of trail woods and all of that, so.
Cause that's the biggest thing that I'm hearing.
That's, you know,
Slow the cars down and keep them out of the neighborhood.
Well, I think Linda had a point. I saw it years ago. There was a picture of the township development interconnecting how to get people to the river. And the assumption was you come up Zee, you go all the way up to the polo fields. Park Road, if what I understand what the Timberwoods is gonna do is paving pretty close to Cedar Ridge. They're also putting in a sidewalk. That sidewalk's gonna stop dead at a dirt road. Where do the people who are walking go?
They walk in the road.
Well, no, but I mean, we're forcing them once the developer is done to walk on a dirt road. Is that really what we want them? And, you know, particularly they're gonna be walking in the summer when the wind's predominantly out of the south. So the dust is gonna be coming billowing over them if they're trying to walk further. You know, and so I'm
Just to reiterate my statement, I'm not disagreeing.
and I guess the point is, I'm not looking at the current SAD that expires to fund this. I think this is something we look going forward because it makes sense
Yeah,
to pave it to Z. Park Road's gonna become an artery, whether we like it or not. People are gonna come up by Menards and then go on Park Road to avoid the Jackson-Zeeb intersection.
Yep.
It's better to have it paved. It's better to have a sidewalk there. It's gonna be better to have a traffic light because you've got people coming from Polo Fields at 55, you've got them 45 the other way. So you've got differing speeds for people to judge if they're pedestrians. We're going to do this at some point because we have to. It's the right thing to do in town. We just have to figure out how to fund it appropriately.
and what do we do in the interim?
What do we do in the interim? We've got to put a base level down because I drove it and it is 6 to 8 inches sunk. We're gonna have to spend that money in the interim regardless because it's gonna take a few years to figure out how to do it right, would be my assessment.
and it should have been done already.
Right,
Yeah,
and that 150 for the engineering may just be 150 for gravel.
And not to push it any farther, but don't forget that there was a grant allocated towards that road.
Yep.
So what we're trying to do is find out what it really needs to cost to improve it. To a paved road.
I challenge that because I
Okay,
investigated
grant.
that and I'm not getting that there
No.
was a grant.
that the language didn't say, this is what I was trying to get clear with Will, is what is that $800,000 to be? It says Park Road project. So it could go to the sidewalks, it could go, or maybe divvied up, but it's not gonna go very far towards paving.
At some point, we're gonna have to pave it. You can't have that stretch not be paved. It makes us as a township look silly.
And another thing, right, when they pave it, they're gonna take out all those trees. Yeah, so residents have to understand that you can't have both.
They're doing it down the other end anyway. I
Yep.
mean, it's unfortunate, but yes, that's probably what's gonna happen.
Where's $1 million gonna come
We'll find it.
from? That's taxpayer money.
Well,
It's-
arguing about it, isn't gonna find it
So
tonight,
if
and
it's in a
respectfully,
village.
it's 8:43, and we do try and close at 8:30.
Ultimately, it's the board's
It
decision,
is a
so.
serious discussion.
Yeah.
The question I really would have for next week is, or next month, I'm sorry, is have we addressed it sufficiently in the 2023 budget allocation request?
The gravel.
I think there's enough money in there if we decide that we can gravel and dust control it and solve the interim. And if we don't do that, then
Well, it needs to
Just
be
shoot
more
me in
more
the
than
head.
gravel though.
Huh?
It needs to be more than gravel. The substrate needs to be built up, it needs to be
Yeah.
crowned.
Yeah, it's called a
Gravel.
gravel uplift.
You might
or
need some
gravel
ditching
lift.
too.
I mean, the gravel uplift or whatever it is needed to do that, yeah.
Well, I want to address it specifically because I did hear both trustee Reiser and trustee Rizzo say that they had, read all of these letters that were coming through at the December 13 meeting. That the flurry of them seemed to be between about December 5 and December 11. And that they wanted to make sure it was addressed. So I want them to feel like, we also were listening. When we submit our recommendation to them, I don't want it to not mention Hard Road. And, leave it as a open wound. So we definitely will do it the next week. With that, I have to open it up for public comment. Is there anyone in the audience or on Zoom that wishes to speak for 5 minutes or less? Seeing no hands in the room or on Zoom,
That's
I
weird.
would request
weird.
a
That's-
motion to
That's
adjourn.
weird to me.
It is
Let me see if I can raise my hand and maybe,
certainly, Ian, go ahead.
although,
I agree, very unusual.
And how many do we have?
There's many less. Right now we have 1, 2, 3 plus Supervisor Hathaway and Ian. But we at one point in time had 9.
I'm not seeing a way to do it. And I gotta be honest, I haven't raised my hand in Zoom for a long time. Rob Patterson, there you go, he's got his hand up.
Thank you, Mr.
Thanks,
Patterson.
Rob.
All right, so Mr. Patterson, please go ahead.
Thanks, Rob.
We appreciate that. Thank you very much for your kind words. All right, that being the case, there are no more hands raised. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
All right, I'm sorry, who was first and who was second there?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't
Good
matter.
pick.
All right, so Bob Walsh made the motion and seconded. The meeting is adjourned at 8:46 p.m. Next meeting is February, I think it was February 8th, it's February 1st. Patrick, will you please check on the website that I didn't tell Christie February 8th, we've got it reserved for February 8th, it's supposed to be February 1st is the first Wednesday.
Yeah, I'll check.
Just make a check that I have, we had to
So-
be mistake.
Pretty sure I went through.
Thank you, Bob.
We'll do that. Pretty sure we got, I'm pretty sure Kristen's list was right.
Yes,
Christie
thank you.
came out because I've got it on my phone as February 1st, so it would have come out of her
Right,
email.
right. That was my intention, but I got it wrong in there. Apparently it was separate. All right, meeting and